Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about the loss of a player. So I recently lost a player, right? And it's time for reflection because if you're a dungeon master and you lose a player, you got a problem. All right. So I'm going to share with you what happened. I'd love to hear your take on it. I'm going to give you my take on it, right? But sometimes, it's hard to see what, we are often most blind to ourselves. Boy, oh boy, I'm a pretty active member of my community, and there are different circles and different organizations I'm connected to, and you'll see somebody with a problem, and you're like, this problem is super clear. I don't know why you don't get this, right? So I'm going to share you the situation, and you can tell me what lessons I should take away. All right. So I have a Sunday game, right? And right now with the Sunday game, we are full. Okay, we have. I'm just going to name them off, right? We have so I'm dungeon mastering, and actually we switched the dungeon master role, but I'm just going to talk about a bog standard D&D 5e game that I'm running. Oh, sorry. D&D Perkinian Dungeons and Dragons. Old habits die hard. All right. Okay. So, basically, yeah, excuse me there. All right. So you have, so me running Dungeons and Dragons, right? I have a dedicated player. All right. I have my mechanical player. We have a new player, and that's a terrible one to use because somebody else jumps into the new slot, right? We have the shenanigans player, and we have what's a good way to term? And we have an attending player, a player who attends, right? Like, I think that's a good description of the player. All right, okay. All right, so we have dedicated, new, and you know what? I'm going to call the new one what's a good? This new player has never played Dungeons and Dragons before, right? So, but he's come in and he's very I'm going to call him my social player. He's actually extremely adept at being social. He's a social animal. He's very, very social person. He can get things done when he needs to because he's extremely skilled socially. All right. So we have my social player. We have my mechanical player. We have my dedicated player. We have our attending player, and we have our shenanigans player. That's 5 people. And then me. The table is literally full, right? But where's my narrative player? My narrative player is gone. Now, my narrative player has been gone for months, right? But there was this discussion that he was coming back, right? And I don't think he was spinning any kind of tale for anybody. I think he was telling himself he was going to return, right? But I could see he was just going in a different direction. So let's be super clear. I'm an incredibly intense, adamant person. I don't do anything one-cheeked, right? It's both cheeks on everything I do, right? And frankly, I will tell you right now, it's hard to sit at my table, right? Because I just don't I don't play Dungeons and Dragons the way anybody else plays. I care about it too much. I get spun up, right? You got to deal with, I never name my players, but you got to deal with, hearing what I'm going to say on Monday, or you don't. I got one player who never listens to this channel, which probably is, that's the best, might be the best choice, right? Because I do think it's hard for players to play on a Sunday and then hear about it on a Monday, right? And they're silent. They don't have channels, right? Which I'm kind of how do people in the world survive without a YouTube channel? How can you survive if the whole world doesn't hear everything you have to say? It's just kind of strange. But hey, people do it, whatever. So my narrative player gives me a call and he says, hey, I have, and he's saying he is starting a competing game. Right now, it's not Dungeons and Dragons; completely different system. Actually, he's going to use the Genesis system, right? So that's the Star Wars system, just genericized with the narrative dice. But he's running in the exact same time slot as me, right? And he is spinning up his own, and he's going to record it. But he's just going to record it for himself, right? And I've known this for months, right? And here's why: never ever listen to what players say. Pay attention to what they do, right? That's the real feedback on your game. Are they there every week? If they're not, they don't like it, right? They could say that they're planning to come back or whatever, but the reality is the action speaks louder than the words. So when he said, "Hey, I'm not coming back," I already knew that, and I said, "Hey, go with God, no problem. I get it, right?" Like, and also he is a very he's exactly like me. He has strong opinions, and I don't think he likes sitting in the player's seat, right? I'm not a huge fan of sitting in the player's seat, right? Why be a character when you could be the deity of that world, right? Like, it seems, like I'm kind of like, and he's in the same boat, right? So I will definitely miss him. I think the reason he is leaving is, one, we're both Type A drivers, right? I don't think he realizes he's a Type A driver yet, but I think he is, right? And then where else do we land? So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how all this kind of bounces out. I'm definitely going to miss him at the table. I'm glad he's doing his own thing. I think he's good enough dungeon master where he should really have his own thing, and but it is the end of of an era, right? And I also am incredibly blessed that losing a player doesn't really rock the table much for me anymore. So I think losing this player is on me. It's just very hard to be a player on my table. That's my take. I'm owning that, right? I get it, right? And I will worry when I can no longer attract a full table, but that day ain't today, as Aragorn once said. All that's my humble opinion. What am I missing? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.